Thanks, Amy. Hey, guys. Thanks for coming. So we'll start with the good news, which is there's no golf in Utah in January or February. And that's good because golf is the worst spectator sport in the world. There are two reasons for that. The first reason is that nothing good ever happens. And the second reason is if there's something good does happen in golf, you're not allowed to wildly or raucously applaud. They have that golf clap thing. So if we could start off, give me the worst golf clap you can imagine, like a really measly golf clap. That was terrible. Could you double it? And double it again? And one more time. Beautiful, thank you. So that's what I came to talk about because that's what I think we all do for a living. That is our job going forward, to find small threads of interest, connect them, amplify them, and make it into something that matters. And what I want to do today is talk for about 40, 45 minutes, and then because it's such an intimate group, have a real conversation for another half an hour after that. The thing I need to do, though, is help us understand that the model that we're used to, the way you dig the biggest hole or build a fjord or build a large institution used to be, you do the thing you used to do and you do it again and you do it again. And you do it with persistence and you do it consistently. And so to kick us off and help us understand how that's a little different, here's some footage from a bike race in Italy. And what you'll see is the guy who's in last place finally realizes that pedaling harder isn't working for him. And that maybe instead of pedaling harder and harder, he could use aerodynamics to his advantage and redefine how it is that he's going to compete in this downhill part of the bike race. Once you see it, it's really hard to unsee. It's a little like professional wrestling. Some of you didn't know until just now, but I'm going to tell you, professional wrestling is fake. Now, at some point, everyone thought it was real, and then one day you discovered it was fake, and then you noticed the pull punches and the blood packs and all the stuff that's not real. Or consider the idea that you could take a picture of a bat, any bat, and if you turn them upside down, you realize it's not a bat, it's a badass. Here are 3 bats getting ready for bed, except they're not really getting ready for bed. They're at a cocktail party. And so from now on, you will never look at bats exactly the same way. So that's my job, is to help you think about marketing and digital marketing in a really different way. This is an expensive lesson. Let me tell you what happened to me. In 1992, I had something you did not have, which is access to the internet. I was a writer. I had a T1 line coming into my office. There was no World Wide Web then. It was just Archie and Veronica and databases. I saw this stuff happening, and when I saw it, I went ahead and made a book called Best of the Net, because I had a hammer, and that was a nail. And that book went on to sell 1,800 copies. It was a total failure. During that same period of time, 2 guys in California named David and Jerry saw what I saw. They didn't write a book. They built a website called Yahoo. And at its peak, Yahoo was worth more than $100 billion. My half would have been worth at least $50 billion. And all I got was this lousy T-shirt. And the difference is simple. They saw clearly what was happening, not me. I didn't see it. They said, here's a blank slate. If you could build anything, knowing that the internet is coming, what would you build? I said, what do I already know how to do? And this is the problem your bosses have. This is the problem we all have. We see things change, and we ask, what do I already know how to do? And I want to argue that we are now living in a revolution as big as the Industrial Revolution. So this is, I don't know if you know what this is. This is a vinyl record. And it's a symbol of what was going on in 1973. If you were in the record business in 1973, you had to be an idiot to not make a lot of money. Everything about it was perfect. If I had a record and I loaned it to you, I wouldn't have it anymore, have to buy another one. If I played it a lot, I'd wear it out, have to buy another one. Where would I get a record? I would get in the car and drive. And in my car, there was this box. They called it a radio. And I would turn it on, and I would hear nothing but what was being promoted for me to buy at the record store. There were buildings filled to the top with records that the record industry didn't even have to pay for. And then I'd come home, and MTV and Rolling Stone. We all know what happened. It only took 5 years. The industry went from perfect to impossible. Every record ever recorded available to anyone on earth for free with a smartphone in just 5 years. The industry's impossible. It's impossible to imagine that every record ever recorded is available to anyone who wants to listen to it. It's impossible. And this is happening to every single industry. If you sat down with a travel agent, if you sat down with someone who owned a limo company or a hotel company just 20 years ago and said, what would be the impossible thing that would happen? They would describe what is happening now. So I was at the first Mastermind conference here in Utah 20 years ago. I was the only one here. And at the conference, we talked about these concepts. But it's taking a long time, which is good for you, for a lot of industries to get the message. And that means there's a lot of dislocation and a lot of opportunity. So we start with this. We start with a 4-letter word. The 4-letter word your bosses and your shareholders keep saying to you over and over again. That 4-letter word, of course, is this: more. Get me more shelf space. Get me more customers. Get me more prospects. Get me more market share. More and more and more. Well, if you want more, that means you need a bigger audience. You need mass, a mass audience. Well, there's another name for mass, and that's average. And if you want to reach average people, you need average products. Hence this, average products for average people, except maybe Pop-Tarts. But everything else was designed to be average because that's what average people want. If you're a mass marketer, if you're a mass marketer reaching as many people as you can, you better have something a lot of people want. Okay, the next thing is this. Oh, I'm sorry, this picture's really fuzzy. I had a bad cold when I took it. But that blue box in the upper middle center, that brand manager spent $100 million interrupting us. $100 million on coupons and shelling allowances and TV ads. Why? So that when we went to the deli, because when we're sick, it's the only time we go to buy medicine, we'd buy her pain reliever. Here's the problem. I don't have a pain reliever problem, and neither do you. You solved your pain reliever problem 20 years ago. You get the yellow box, the generic, the cheap one. It doesn't matter. We're not walking around with a pain reliever problem, looking through the magazines for new ads. And that's true for the people you're trying to reach. The customers you're imagining are going to buy from you next don't think they have the problem you want them to have. So we're busy yelling at people who don't think they have a problem, who are average about our average product, hoping they will listen to us. And if you've read the latest internet scuttlebutt, we've gotten to the point where the average person online has an attention span the length of a goldfish, 8 seconds. I don't think that's being fair to the goldfish. And what we're doing is responding to it by making our messages even more urgent and putting more of them out there and showing up on people's cell phones and texting them and emailing them and yelling at them. But your customers aren't goldfish. They're humans. And they're ignoring you. And we're trying to make up for the noise by making more noise. And they're dealing with that by ignoring us even more. A couple more problems to share with you. This is room 367 here at the Montage. No, I didn't take this picture last night. Hyatt, maybe? I don't know. It's a hotel room at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's dark. And in fact, all hotel rooms are dark at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what they're supposed to be. They're all the same. And back when hotels were disconnected from each other, hotel marketers could deal with that. Stay at our Hyatt, not that Hilton. But now that there's Hotels.com, sort by price, I'll take the close one, I'll take the cheap one. All of your background of telling me it's all the same, where the quality of everyone else is backfiring. Because if it's all the same, don't bother me. This mindset of I'll find some poor schmo and assault them over and over and over again with ads until one day they buy from me is broken. Because the people you most want to reach are saying, I got a force field and I want to hear from you. I have a remote control, I'm not afraid to use it. You, all of us, we've branded ourselves to death. And then one more little bit of bad news. In New York City, 5th Avenue, 20th Street, I don't know if you've been there. It's the epicenter of the yoga district. There are more than 6 stores within a block where you can buy a pair of yoga pants. The dreaded yoga pant shortage is over. Right around the corner is a place that sells more than 750 different kinds of cameras. And around the corner from that is a place that sells every Android phone. And once you get that Android phone, you can pick it up and choose from more than 1,000 different kinds of insurance. Almost every category no longer has a real scarcity problem. Almost every category, including the one you're in, there are choices. More and more choices than ever before. And so back to that idea of more. You've been to that meeting with the chart. That one says up, that one says to the right. Up and to the right, that's what the boss wants, that's what everyone wants, get us more growth. And here I am showing up saying, wait a minute, the rules have changed. They may not be rules you like. You may want to know who designed these rules. You may want to understand why someone didn't read the instructions. But the fact is that the marketing that got you here is not going to get you where you want to go. That we have to acknowledge that there's a lot of bad news here, and the bad news is it's not what it used to be. And so we should take a deep breath and acknowledge that it has fundamentally changed. And so what I'm going to try to do for the next few minutes is help you see how it has changed. And I beg you, don't try to force this into the model you already have, because that's not going to help you. But instead, what would happen if you could do it a different way? Okay, so the first place we start is with Fancy Feast gourmet cat food. Now, what you may have realized is that Fancy Feast gourmet cat food is not actually for cats. It's for cat owners. If it was for cats, it would come in mouse flavor. That what we know is that yellowfin tuna and shrimp recipe with wild rice and gravy is a story. It's a story that the cat owner is able to tell him or herself. A story about caring and about connection and about luxury. That's what they sell. They don't sell cat food. Juxtapose that with the latest trend, which is big data. Big data, we're told, will solve all of our problems. It will somehow look at all the stuff that's coming by and tell us what to do next, except it won't, because big data looks in the rearview mirror. It tells us what happened yesterday. And our job as marketers is to do something deeper than that, something more human than that, which is to figure out how to make a different kind of difference, one that we're not going to be able to get out of a spreadsheet. You've been to this meeting where the sales team says, if we could just lower our price, if we could just lower our price, then our market share will go up. And you have correctly pointed out that's a race to the bottom. And the problem with the race to the bottom is you might win. Or even worse, you might come in second. Okay, fine. Some wise guy speaks up and says, I know, we'll raise our price. But then correctly the marketing people say, we can't raise our price because it's all the same. And if it's all the same, our customers aren't stupid. They won't buy from us. The only valid alternative is to be the only one, is to figure out not how to change your marketing, but how to change who you are so that you're actually worth seeking out. That when you become the only one, the one and only, all these other people aren't contenders. Sort by price is not your friend. Go to Moscow, you can buy a laptop, sort by price. Go online to Costco, you can buy a coffin, sort by price. Sort by price is in a lot of places, and sort by price is not helping you. Because sort by price says to the consumer, it's all the same, buy the cheap one. If you want to understand why traveling by air is so horrible, it's largely because of sort by price. Because the airlines can't afford to put care and dignity and amenities into the process because they won't win the sort by price fight. And they've spent so many years telling us it's all the same. That's all we're looking for. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to seek out not the largest, but the smallest possible market. This goes against everything you learned in capitalism school. The smallest possible market. Because if you have the smallest possible market, you have no choice but to care about those people, to optimize for those people, to be amazing for those people. And if you can overwhelm the smallest possible market, guess what happens? Your market gets bigger. This requires design thinking. 2 questions. Who's it for? What's it for? If you don't know who exactly it's for, what they believe, what they think, you can't make something amazing. And what's it for? What change are you seeking to make? What impact are you trying to solve? If all you're doing is answering the RFP, you have failed. Okay, so on to some tactics. There are 2 ways to get married. The first way to get married, well, there's more than 2 ways to get married. There's actually an almost unlimited number of ways in the United States to get married, bizarre ways to get married. But there are 2 ways to get married. The first way to get married is to go online, swipe right on every single person, and propose marriage to every person you meet, right? You could do it a little bit more gracefully, but the point is that's not a really useful way to get married because you would make too many proposals and don't get enough yeses. The alternative is to go on a date. If it goes well, go on another date. Wait till the 3rd date before you tell that person you're out on parole, and then you meet their parents, they meet your parents, you get engaged, you get married. Right? It worked for me. Maybe it worked for you. So the question is, why aren't you dating your prospects? Why are we burning down every little bit of attention and trust we get, asking every single person to buy from us, instead of earning the privilege of anticipated, personal, and relevant messages that people would miss if you didn't show up with them. Because the incremental cost of it is zero. So you've seen one of these before. It's called a stamp. You used to be able to buy a stamp and send a letter. That's called direct marketing. If you got a 3% response rate, you got a promotion. The reason that 3% was astonishing is it costs money to buy stamps. But then they invented spam, where it doesn't cost anything to send it. And as a result, there's an unlimited amount of spam in the world, and the response rate is essentially zero. Well, you know and I know there's already too much spam in the world. And that what we can do instead is show up with messages that people actually want to get. Not try to weasel our way out of the promotions folder, but be the kind of message that when it shows up in someone's text, they are glad it arrived. This is a totally different way for you to think about being in the world. So that's tactic number one, permission marketing. Tactic number two, treat different people differently. You've seen this curve before. It's called the bell curve, or the normal distribution. If you took a stats class, you know that it's called the normal distribution because the people in the center, 88% or so, are normal, and the people on the edges are weird. And that what you're supposed to do is ignore the weird people, because there aren't that many of them, make normal stuff for normal people. And it worked great for 100 years. But here's what's happening, thanks to the internet. The curve is melting. Drip by drip, day by day, when you give people a choice, they take a choice. There are now more weird people than normal people. Because what it means to be weird is that you care. If you're in a market and you're looking around, you're on the edges. You didn't buy the normal thing. So look at all these brands, billion-dollar brands, all of them. Every one of them was built for weird people. None of them was aimed at the center of the market when they came out. That what we have the opportunity to do is choose to build stuff that some people care about. So many of you work for companies that have the motto, you can choose anyone, and we're anyone. And that's just not going to fly anymore. Because we have to understand that different people hear differently. Different people see things differently. You can't have everyone. Don't try to have everyone. But you can have someone if you are willing to embrace them. Not easy to do. Because like the fish at the Monterey Aquarium, we were taught to follow the leader, to fit in, to take good notes, to read the dummies book. Why? Because the thing we fear the most in Western culture, rich enough to be inside on a cold, snowy day, is that someone's going to say, you know what, you're not as good as you think you are. How dare you? Don't get uppity. Well, that's the only way we're going to be able to move forward. Here's one way to think about it. The first person who had a fax machine, what exactly did he do with it? You can't use a fax machine by yourself. You have to tell other people, go get a fax machine. That's how the word spread. Bob Metcalf, he's not shy, calls this Metcalf's Law. And Metcalf's Law says the power of a network is the square of the power of the people on the network. The more people you connect, the better it works. You heard about Twitter from their Super Bowl ad, from their World Cup sponsorship? No. You heard about Twitter from someone who wanted you to follow them on Twitter. Because Twitter works better if your friends are following you on Twitter. And so building into the system the desire and need to talk about it is the marketing of the future. So you all know what the funnel is. You're professional marketers. Put attention at the top and some sales come out at the bottom. We got to get rid of the funnel and turn it into a megaphone. How do we hand that megaphone to our best customers and get them to tell other people? Okay, so I want to shift gears for a minute. How many of you sell B2B as opposed to consumers? Usually about half. Okay, so B2B, as you understand it, is mostly about men shaking hands with each other, at least if you do a Google search for B2B imagery. But what people who sell B2B believe is that the thing they have is so valuable, saves so much time and money, that all they have to do is show up at the company and they will be greeted with open arms. That people will say, wow, this is incredible. Ronald's here. Let's get this new exciting thing. Except that's not what the company thinks. When you show up, this is what they think. Because what a B2B innovation means is that bad things are going to happen because change is going to happen. And people at work don't like change. And so the challenge we've got if we want to tell that story is not this is going to save your company 10%, because guess what? It's not their money. What's going on in their head is, you just ruined my day. And if I buy this innovation from you and it doesn't work, I'm going to have to explain to every person I work with every day that I got suckered by some clown who came in here to sell me a new innovation. Okay, so what makes people talk about it? Because it's people talking about it that's so much more valuable than you buying another ad. So some of you read the book. There's a long, involved story about it, but the short version of it is this. If you see a cow in a field, you're going to drive right past. A cow in a field is boring. 1 cow, 10 cows, 100 cows. Cows are all the same. But what? What if it was a purple cow? If it was a purple cow, you'd pull over, get on the phone, call people back home, start texting people that you were looking at a purple cow. Take out your phone and take pictures of the purple cow because no one would believe you actually saw a purple cow. A purple cow is remarkable. And what remarkable means is worth making a remark about. That's it. And I am not the vice president of what is remarkable, nor are you. Your customers are. If your customers talk about it, then by definition, it's remarkable. So the opportunity we have is to choose to build products and services that are actually worth talking about. And if you work for a company that doesn't do that, you either have to act like you own the whole place and change them, or you have to leave. Because you are wasting every day you spend as a professional marketer bringing average stuff to average people. You can't do it anymore. You can't afford it. I know this is scary. This is asking you to fly ever higher in a world where this is a real sign. Who else's risk are you supposed to play at exactly? That what we are required to do as marketers is bring a new kind of grit to the table. The grit to skin our knee and get up and do it again. To understand that the organization that fails the most wins. You can't fail too big because then you don't get to fail again. But if you fail the most, over and over and over again, in your search for creating something remarkable, you're going to leave everybody else in the dust. That what I'm begging you to do is build something that's alive and growing. The Japanese have a term, kamiwaza. Kamiwaza means godlike, myth-like, the way the gods would do it. So ironically, it means human-like. It means what would we do if we were being our best self? If someone who actually cared, who was fully present, showed up. Do you think this beautiful animal is saying to himself, "Ooh, I wonder if I left the oven on. Oh, my boss hates me. Oh, my left shoulder's bothering me." No, fully present. Present to do what needs to be done. When George Nakashima revolutionized furniture for a few people in this country, he didn't make furniture like everybody else. He made furniture like George Nakashima. When Frank Lloyd Wright designed this house in 15 minutes on the back of a paper bag, he then turned to his client and he said, "Here, if you wish, I will build this for you." He did not say, "Let's have a series of meetings and focus groups. We'll sand off the edges and make it exactly the house of your dreams." He said, "I am Frank Lloyd Wright, and this is the house I designed. If you want it, I will build it for you." That's really hard to do in a mindset that says, I have to please everyone all the time. Frank Lloyd Wright never tried to please everyone, which is why he's the only architect almost anyone has ever heard of. So if you're afraid of flying, please don't look at this video. These are jumbo jets coming in for a landing. And what you'll see is that the plane is dangerously and dramatically off course. So it turns around, flies back to Dallas, and takes off again. No, actually, that's not what happens. What happens is the plane has been off course since the moment it took off, and the pilot adjusts. And the pilot adjusts, and then you land safely. That the adjusting is the job. That you don't lock it and it's done. That what we do for a living is we enter the market, we make mistakes, we learn from our mistakes, and then we do it again. And this process of being in the market enables us to be the creator that we always wanted to be. Okay, so a couple terms that I would like to share with you as we go through my hundreds of slides of rant. Among the Zulu people in Africa, you could hear this wonderful term, which is sawubona. Sawubona means I see you. Not I recognize you, but I actually see you. I see your parents. I see your fears. I see your needs. I see your desires. I see you. Is there anything your customers want more than this? They don't want a discount on a mattress. They don't want a faster ride to the airport. They want to be seen. That's what we all crave. We want to be seen by our friends, by our bosses, by the people we work with. And we want to be seen by the people we do business with. Once you can see someone, you have the chance for the second word, enrollment. Mandatory education makes no sense whatsoever. You can't do mandatory education. You have to do voluntary education. People going where you want to go, where they want to go, going there together. So I mentioned earlier there's a revolution going on, right? It's not the Industrial Revolution, it's the connection revolution. The connection revolution says that for the first time in imagination, we're connected. 2 billion of us, one click away. Matt Ridley famously said, no one on earth knows how to make a computer mouse. Can't find anybody who knows plastics and hardware and metal and software and supply chain. But together, value is created. That's incredible. It's totally different than the world our parents lived in. Completely different. We're not in the factory business anymore. We're in the connection business. And that economy is based on several elements. Coordination. You're all here in this building today. None of you were in this building last week. None next week. Value is created by coordinating actions. Number 2 is trust, because we don't want to connect to someone we don't trust. 3, I'll take a little credit, is permission or mission. And 4 is the exchange of ideas. All of us are smarter than any of us. But the magic, the thing that surprises everybody, is that these 4 principles have a foundation of 2, generosity and art. Generosity because no one wants to connect to a selfish person. No one wants to engage with someone who's always taking. And art is what we call it when a human being does something that might not work, something for us, something that changes things. So we're used to living in this world of scarcity, where there's just a little bit. But now we're entering this world of abundance, unlimited choices, unlimited number of people to follow, unlimited number of options, unlimited number of movies to watch at Sundance. So if we walk up to somebody and say, I got something in the box, but I can't give it to you because I don't have that much, we lose. But if we walk up to somebody and say, I don't have that much, but if I give it to you, we'll both have it, we win. It's a fundamental shift. So how do we bring that to the market? Well, fortunately, 5,000 years ago, Charlton Heston figured it out. And what he came up with was this idea of tribes. Tribes are groups of people connected by a costume, by a culture, by a mission. We grew up with just a few tribes in our lives. A spiritual tribe, if you're from New Jersey, a work tribe, a community tribe. But now they're everywhere. So you got the red hat ladies getting uppity. You got these guys who pay $15,000 to go to Hawaii to compete in the Ironman. A race they know they're going to lose. Why do they go there? They don't have roads in Utah? They go because the other red hat guys are there. Or these red hat guys who train all year for the big day. Or these white hat guys. My favorite 50 years ago, right? Leonard Nimoy, rest in peace. These are tribes. Groups of people who are connected. So let me show you how this works at a deep level. I'm going to time you. Ready? Go. Okay, stop. That took 4 seconds. That's the Utah record. One group took 28 seconds to get in sync. I was sweating bullets. But every group I've ever done it with has figured it out. Some are fast cadence, some are slow. How did you know? I made no eye contact. How did you know? No one stood up and said, follow me. We do it because we like doing what other people are doing. We want to be in sync. Look around. Anyone in a prom dress? Anyone in a tuxedo? How did you know what to wear today? Was there a memo? Right? We wish there was a memo that we wouldn't have had to think about it before we came to the meeting. So this need that we have to connect, not with everyone, but with our people, is a huge opportunity because it means you can build an organization that connects people, that builds a culture on purpose, that challenges them to go to the next level, that commits, that's clear, that communicates over and over again what we do. You don't have to invent the customers. The Beatles didn't invent teenagers. They just showed up to lead them. Bob Marley didn't invent the Rastafarians. He just showed up to lead them. So for those of you who like the TLDR and wish I had only had one slide today, here it is in 7 words. People like us do things like this. You got to be prepared to say that. The visual for it is simple. Almost no one has a Suzuki tattoo. They did this on purpose. They did this on purpose. They do this on purpose. It's an intentional act of what does it mean to be people like us. So many of you are not the boss and sole shareholder. So I want to tell you a little bit of a story. It starts with a tragic beginning. Until recently in the United States, 4 million dogs and cats were killed every single year. usually within 24 hours of being taken off the street by the SPCA and the Humane Society. 4 million dogs and cats. This man, Nathan Winograd, went to work at the SPCA of San Francisco. He was not in charge. He had no budget. He had no authority. He saw this was going on. He did not want it to stick. So he went to the board, and they turned him down. So instead, he went to the people of San Francisco, but not all of them, just a few, just some weird ones at the edges, people who cared, people who were part of a tribe. And in less than 100 days, Nathan Winograd had enough money, but more important, enough volunteers, that San Francisco became the first no-kill animal shelter city in the United States. And since that day, not one healthy dog or cat has been killed in San Francisco. Well, you can say that's easy. It's San Francisco. Nathan left there, and he went to Tompkins County, New York, a rural county outside Ithaca, did it again. Then he went to Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, he did it again. Then he went to Reno, Nevada, and he did it again. Because one person stood up and said, "Follow me." We got taught in school something really profound, which is do what you're told. See if it's on the test. Raise your hand before you speak. Fit in. Wear the right clothes. Be obedient. We invented school for that purpose. Industrialists designed school to train kids to work patiently in factories. And the reason they want you to fit in is so they can ignore you. Because it's easier if they can ignore you, if you don't have power and you don't have leverage. But we are now charged with fixing that because we can. There's a big difference between management and leadership. Management is do what you did yesterday and do it faster and cheaper. Leadership says, follow me. I'm not sure it's going to work, but if you're enrolled in this journey, together we'll figure out how to get there. For 1 million years, human beings were on Earth feeding themselves by hunting. Only 10,000 years ago did we invent farming. It's brand new. And only a few hundred years ago did we invent jobs. Jobs are a really recent thing where you would go to somebody and say, tell me what to do, pay me money. Brand new. In Europe in 1500, unemployment rate was 0. It was 0 because there were no jobs. And I want to argue we are headed back in that direction. And this thing we call work is being replaced by something else. I'm going to call it art. So let me decode that really quickly for you. Marcel Duchamp, art. Pablo Picasso, art. Jackson Pollock, art. But Jackson Pollock had a brother. And his brother's name was Charles, and he was merely a painter. He painted just like Thomas Hart Benton, his teacher. He was a copyist. That's why you never heard of Charles Pollock. He didn't do anything that wouldn't work. He didn't do anything human. He didn't do anything important. Joseph Beuys was an artist. He worked in felt. William Shakespeare was an artist. He worked in words. Richard Serra, 2 million-pound sculptures. Back to Marcel Duchamp, put a urinal in an art museum. He caused a riot. This was art. The second person to install a urinal in an art museum was a plumber. And that's the distinction. 2 years ago, I went to China, to Shenzhen. And outside of Shenzhen is a village called Dafan, where they paint 1/3 of all the oil paintings in the world. Over and over and over again, as fast as they can, they're painting the same painting. You can buy the Mona Lisa in Dafan for $29. But it's not the Mona Lisa, guys. It's a copy. And as I talked about 20 minutes ago, everything's a click away. Why would I click to your copy? Why would I click to go find that new thing you're doing that's just like that new thing somebody else is doing, that's just like that new thing somebody else is doing? Because you have a better jingle or because you're $1 less? Either way, you lose. Now, your best work, when you go to work and you're doing your best work, what are you doing actually? You're making change. You are changing something, not copying something. But change has an ugly little brother, and his name is tension. The tension of this might not work. The tension of I don't want to change. The tension of that's an angry clown. And so people hear the rant and they say, all right, fine, give me the bullet points, give me a map. Tell me step by step, how do I make remarkable work? The thing is, I can't give you a map. I can't even give you a fictional map, because if I give you a map, it would be plumbing, not art. That the humanity of this requires us to get past that fear we have. We live in a country where this is a real book. People bought a book to teach themselves how to raise invisible sheep without making mistakes. Where we trained people to be competent, but competence is no longer scarce. At a click, I can find someone more competent than you, cheaper. If I can write it down and you're saying I'll meet the spec, you're in trouble. Some of you have seen that funny video that went viral a few years ago, the free hugs video. This guy hates it because he worked really hard to be in the expensive hugs business. The internet doesn't care. That's essential to remember. The internet wasn't built for you. It's the first medium in history that wasn't built for marketers. So the bottled water guys who spent all this time saying pure, which means the same, what are they going to do now? Right? I mean, they tried this, but it didn't work. In general, if it's all the same, I'll take the close one and the cheap one. Thank you very much. Close and cheap. That's not your answer. Your answer is kryptonite. This might not work. That's why Superman's interesting. If Superman was truly immortal and everything worked out, why would we need the comic? We don't. But it might not work. That feeling of standing on the edge of the cliff, as Kurt Vonnegut says, and growing wings on our way down, that's what's going to get our true fans to show up. Because that's what's going to get them to be engaged. So we gave you the internet. We said, if you want to talk, talk. If you want to teach, teach. Here's a microphone. Tell us what you know. But don't yell at us. Don't give us replaceable, churned out content marketing that costs you a penny a word. I got better things to do. You're going to have to come up with something else. You're going to have to innovate. And innovation is something that is super sexy and is then met with the worst sentence in the world. Failure is not an option. But if failure is not an option, then neither is success. Because what it means to innovate, what it means to make art, what it means to be in the world is to do stuff that might not work. Famously, easily remembered, the guy who invented the ship also invented the shipwreck. So you and your team have to decide if you want to get on board or not. So last year was the 10th anniversary of the most successful, most profitable consumer product of all time. The product that has used more hours and has absorbed more dollars than anything else. And for those 10 years, the most valuable company in the history of the world had 10 years with unlimited engineering time, unlimited access to the greatest technologists there are so that they could launch a phone that did emojis. That's it. Because they forgot what got them there. They shifted from being an organization with a leader to being one with a manager. They figured out in the short run they can make a few more bucks. But it doesn't last. What lasts is a commitment to salto mortale. That's Italian for the leap into the void. Yves Klein, finding himself in midair. That feeling that we get when we commit. And deep down we know, because we were raised to know, it's too soon. I'm not ready. Let somebody else go. It's not quite time. When Gutenberg launched the printing press, it turns out that 94% of his addressable market didn't know how to read. He should have waited. When Carl Benz launched the car, it was against the law to drive a car in Germany. He needed this letter from the king to drive. Not only that, there were no roads, no gas stations, which is a really big problem, and no all-night drive-through liquor stores. He should have waited. There's a really big difference between being ready and being prepared. All of you are prepared because you're diligent and hardworking, but none of you are ready. You cannot be ready to make this sort of innovation. And deep down, we don't want to, because, for example, Google riding a bike on YouTube, and what you find are people falling off bikes, because that's all anybody wants to see. That all we've built this social media around is this idea that we all should just watch other people fail, and we should play it safe. So I didn't show you the end of that video of the bike race. So let me do that, and then we got a couple more minutes, and then we'll do the questions. So here's the guy riding, and it's working. It's working. He's pioneered a new method, and everyone understands that he's a genius. And he's only got one guy left to pass, and he's committed to this new method. He has revolutionized the way bike racing is going to work. And then someone copies him. And then once that happens, you got to invent something else. You can't go back to normal. There is no normal. We have to quiet that voice in our head, the one that says an alligator is going to eat us or that a shark is going to land on our house. We have to get over the story of Icarus and realize that this is what we just signed up for. We signed up to be in constant reinvention because that's the byproduct of the connection economy. So here's my favorite slide. 1927 Solvay Conference. They invited the greatest physicists in the world together. You may recognize some people there. Albert Einstein, Marie Curie, Niels Bohr. It said Heisenberg was there, but it's uncertain. What is known, thank you. What is known is that there are 29 people in this picture. And 17 of them won the Nobel Prize in Physics. And almost all of them won it after the photo was taken. You didn't get invited to Solvay because you won the Nobel Prize. You won the Nobel Prize because you got invited to Solvay, because it's about possibility. So here you are at the end of January. You're here. You're in the room. You look around and you realize there's somebody here who's going to change the rules. There's somebody here who's going to figure out a new way to win a bike race. Somebody here who's going to figure out how to make a product that people will cross the street to get. Yet, it is always too soon, but that is the best time, because what we need from you is the hubris. The hubris to understand that you could say, I can't be creative because I'm afraid, but it's way more useful to say, I can't be afraid because I'm creative. And that what we can do is stop sheepwalking and figure out a different way to be in this world where we are exposing ourselves. You may remember one of my